Is Cody on?
Hi, Cody.
Is David?
David is not on yet.
Let's wait a minute.
Good evening, everyone.
Is it sunny and warm where you are? In your backyard?
I wish. Yes, it is warm. Not as warm as Hawaii would have been, but yes,
How's the weather down there, Mom?
it's terrific. Except the UV rays are like 9 at 8:30 in the morning. So
Yeah, I feel so bad for you.
yeah, I know, tough.
You might ask about Marley.
It's gonna be a movie. You know that, Mike?
Well, there should be. He was a great guy.
Michelle, you feeling okay?
Yep, I've tested negative twice now.
Great.
So I'm feeling good. Yeah, thank goodness.
Technology, man, technology. You can't even get away in Jamaica.
Yeah, I know, right? You sound like you're right next door, Cody.
Did anybody hear from David?
Yesterday.
All right, well, we can go ahead and get started.
Yeah.
I'll send him a text.
Gerald's doing that.
Oh, good, okay.
I'll run the meeting.
Okay, that's a good idea.
Oh, he's calling. Hey, David.
I pledge
Pledge
allegiance
before the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And if you'll please remain standing for just one moment, and we'll keep our first responders, and particularly our fire department in mind. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michelle.
David, I'm gonna keep you on speaker until I can figure this out. You're on speaker. Okay. Is the link on the website? Sorry. I think you're gonna get that no matter where you get the link from, even if I email you right now. I apologize. Yeah. That's correct.
Do you have the code and password?
All right, we'll wing it. Can everybody, can you hear, David, can you hear everything? Well, me, I guess. Okay. All right,
All right,
Let's go.
we'll call the meeting to order. As usual, it's a hybrid meeting. We will take questions first to the board, then in the room, and finally to members on Zoom. Tonight, we have both Cody Wright and David Shuey calling in, I guess by phone. David's going to try to Zoom in. So we will have all 5 supervisors, but we won't all be here in the room. I want to announce not only that the meeting is being recorded via Zoom, but that the rescheduled Community Day will be Saturday, August 26th, starting at 5 p.m. And we'll have the traditional fireworks as it gets dark. And I don't know what time that is in August. We did not hold an executive session tonight. So we'll go right into the emergency services report. I see Chief Bernard is here. You're first up in the batting order.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Thanks for coming.
Glad to be here. I'd like to start this evening with the statistical report. There were, for the month of July, 1,936 total calls for all 3 townships. Year-to-date calls for service, 2,523. Again, the comparison between 2019, a pre-pandemic year, and our current year shows significant increases in calls for service. In just looking at East Goshen, there were 1,025 calls for service in July. When we subtract all the proactive calls or measures, whatever you want to call it, which were the 347, it still left us with 678. Compared to 2019, that was a 29.5% increase. We'll continue to monitor that and report it back to the townships as necessary. I'd like to cover a couple trends. The most concerning that we have is for parents who have a child who's returning to high school this year. We want to make you aware of a thing that's becoming increasingly popular around the nation. It's called a Saturn app. This app permits a student to upload their class schedule and find everyone that's in that class. It also gives them an opportunity to download their birthday, their year of graduation, as well as it shows exactly where a student is every minute that they're in school. Although the intention was for students to be able to better communicate, we have severe concerns that this could be utilized by predators, by bullies, and also by stalkers. As a result, our school resource officer and our juvenile detective have reached out to convey their concerns to the school district. They're examining the app to determine what concerns they may have, and at some point they may communicate with the parents. In the meantime, we are strongly recommending parents discourage their children from using the Saturn app until the safety measures can be examined.
Could I ask, please, is this Saturn spelled Saturn?
Just like the planet.
And are you, is our SRO or anybody in the department communicating with the company, the app company, to see if they do download the app? Is there a way that they can uninstall it and really
Yes.
get it off their phone?
Well, it's interesting because the company has indicated that, oh, there's all these privacy so that unless you're a student at the school, but various parents around the nation have gone on and proven that that is not correct. So until we can do a further examination and truly figure out what this app is all about and what safety and privacy concerns we have that are warranted, we're telling parents, please encourage your students not to use it.
Do you know if this is also applicable for college students?
We haven't tried it, but my understanding is just for high school students.
Just for high school?
That's the way they're advertising it anyway.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Aside from that, there are 3 trends that we wanted to point out for East Goshen during the month of July. The first one was an increase in disturbance and assault calls. We had 16 disturbance calls, obviously slightly higher than normal, with 1 arrest, 2 simple assault investigations, 1 arrest, 1 aggravated assault investigation with 1 arrest. There's no commonality among these. It's just, I think people, it's a summer, they're irritated. So it's an increase. The second trend is commercial burglaries. We traditionally don't have a lot of those. And in the month of July, East Goshen had 3 of them. One of the things that we're doing to combat that is the emergency contact form for businesses. We're in the process. We reached out to your township managers who helped us get names and addresses, et cetera, for your businesses. And we're working to get current contact information with them. Number one, so that if there is an emergency at their business, that they can be notified in a timely manner. And also if we see trends that have commonalities involving businesses, that we can locate and contact them about them. One of the things that we're doing is it's going to be in the upcoming newsletter for East Goshen. The other trend that we had was, for some reason, we had a higher than normal missing adults and juveniles. We had 4 adults and 1 juvenile. All but 1 was located. The 1 individual is an adult who has chosen not to be located.
2 children or 1 child?
1 child, 4 adults. So the individual didn't qualify, the adult did not qualify as an endangered missing person, and they have the right to disappear if they want to. So we're working with the family to provide them resources, but we no longer consider it a missing person call.
Cody tried, but we found him.
He's in a real nice place. And if anybody is interested, just an overall synopsis of what happened in East Goshen. There were 10 frauds, but only 1 check washing fraud, which is an improvement from previous months. 7 thefts with 2 arrests, 7 custody and civil disputes, 4 trespassing, 3 weapons, 2 threats, 4 vandalism, 3 drug-related investigations, 1 DUI investigation with an arrest, 1 sex offense investigation, and 1 child abuse investigation. But that's kind of like the norm. Nothing really stood out there. Any questions from the board?
I don't have any questions. Does anybody?
Chief, I have a question, Brenda. I think we had our own disturbance and assault incident last meeting here.
Okay.
Chief, were you aware that one of your sergeants was going to be appearing here last meeting?
Yes, I was. I asked him to reach out to the township manager to make sure that the township was aware before he arrived. And he was not here in his capacity as a sergeant. He was in here as his capacity as the president of the police association.
And I appreciate that. In my opinion, as one supervisor, he not only questioned our integrity, but there were veiled threats, maybe not so veiled, in his comments and presentation. Thought it was highly inappropriate. The study that we were trying to effect was known for some time. We've been working on trying to get this affected for over 2 years. You were certainly aware of it. My opinion that there have been counter efforts to quash that, to lobby and influence, and it was effectively done, in my opinion, with the West Town Board, our partner. I said from the very beginning that that study, I'm hoping that you would have embraced it, was all about due diligence by the elected officials. We have a budget that is consumed over 40 some percent with police expenses each year in this township, over $5 million. And like any large expenditure, we have a responsibility for our due diligence to affect assessments, evaluations, studies to determine the efficiency, the effectiveness of the services we are provided or required to provide. While I'm disappointed in my partner, in our partner, for them distancing this study again, I felt that it was extremely inappropriate for the manner in which Officer Ragney, in his capacity, the way he approached this board. I thought it was disrespectful, and I thought you should know about it firsthand. That's all I'm going to say about it.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else on the board have anything they'd like to ask?
Anybody on the phone lines? Hearing none, I guess not. Thank you,
Okay,
Chief.
thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Is, Grant taking over this or-
No, he's just gonna take Goshen, and what we decided was when there is not a representative from the other reports, we would just say that the Malvern Fire and the Good Fellowship reports are in the packet and they can be viewed at anybody's leisure at any time.
Okay,
But otherwise, we will just take whoever is here to represent that specific company. In this case, Grant is here, so he could just cover Goshen Fire. I think that's how the board wanted to proceed, from what I
Yep.
remember.
I think that's good. Good evening, Grant.
Hello, Grant.
You get all the confetti off of you from the carnival?
We,
How many funnel cakes you eat?
none.
Good for you.
How
Smart man.
I didn't go hungry though.
many donuts?
They had chip witches that had to be six
Yeah,
inches
yeah,
in diameter. So as a starter, we had a great week. We had 6 good nights of weather for the fair. It was packed. I think everybody had a good time, and I think economically it was another success for us. So
Well, this is the first time we've missed the fair in over 20
Oh,
some
shame
years,
on you.
25 years.
Yeah.
So, but we thought it was important to give other people a chance to win things, so.
Well, I said to a couple of the fire polices, they were getting us into park, and of course, there was a it took a while to get in and get settled. But I said, lots of patience here. The more crowded, the better. That's a good
Yeah.
thing for the fire company.
yeah,
So,
Yeah, it was
so
a
they
good-
did a great job. And
Thank
it
you.
was once again, terrific stuff for the community, and you
Yeah.
guys did a great job.
thank you. So that's a highlight for end of July, beginning of August. But operationally, also, we were very busy. We had 75 fire calls, 31 fire police responses, and 392 EMS responses. The fire calls, we typically run about 60 a month, so the additional 15 were mostly storm related. Wires down, storm damage, checking houses for flooding, things like that. In East Goshen, we had 29 fire responses, 11 fire police responses, and 173 EMS responses. The 392 EMS calls was also one of our busier months. It's probably one of our busiest months this year so far. In terms of major incidents, we had a strange run of carbon monoxide incidents at Bellingham Park Lane, all on the weekends, I think it was 3 consecutive weekends. Dwayne worked with us and also worked with the facilities to try to track down what was causing the issue. They were fairly high levels. We had to ventilate the building, but it has been quiet since the last one.
Where
Were
was it
those
coming from?
residences or commercial buildings?
It's a Bellingham Park Lane, which is a skilled care facility.
You know, Bellingham.
Oh, Bellingham. Oh, I
Wellington,
got
Bellingham.
So,
Wellington and Bellingham.
Yeah, you know what I mean. B&W.
Wellington, Bellingham.
yeah,
So
was the
who
source?
was it?
it's mechanical equipment in the basement.
Huh. And it got in, obviously, the ventilation system and the fact.
It got up and was activating carbon monoxide alarms on the first floor. So,
People had to be evacuated or moved to another area. Do you know?
so I wasn't actually there for any of the 3 of them. I don't think any evacuations were needed. The levels on the occupied floors were high enough to activate the alarms, but didn't hit the threshold for being dangerous. But the levels in the basement were very high, and we spent probably an hour each time ventilating.
Okay.
Grant, let me ask you a specific question on that, from what your knowledge base of with carbon monoxide and it making its way into occupied spaces with a senior population, a very senior
Mhm.
population. My mother-in-law is there, she's 95. Is there more susceptibility to a elevated level, but not a major response? Don't have the right words, but for a senior population like that has less lung capacity, less, all the compromises of
Yes.
the late
Like
stage.
anything else, an elderly person that has, compromising conditions is susceptible to a lot of things. And CO is one of those. They're less tolerant of elevated
Yeah.
levels in the bloodstream.
That was my sense, but
Yeah.
I just thought I'd ask because that's a delicate population.
And then we had a pretty spectacular trash truck fire on Westchester Pike a couple weeks ago in front of Goshen Valley, but the crews got there quickly, got it knocked down. And there was some hydraulic fluid leakage, but we were able to contain that.
I
And
got the email from DEP.
Did you?
Yeah.
But it's the blue trucks.
Republic?
Yeah,
Republic.
they have an on-call. This, it's not their first rodeo. They have an on-call.
Apparently it was handled pretty well from
as,
what I,
as waste company.
as
Yeah.
far as the containment, so.
Yeah.
That's good.
And then the only last thing is we have our 15-week club raffle in the mail. So if you get the envelope,
Yep. Came in
Do
the
us
mail
the honor.
yesterday.
so that's all I got. Any questions?
Questions on the phones?
David, Cody,
All right.
anybody?
Thank you,
Great.
chief.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
See you later,
Thanks,
Grant.
Grant.
Have a good night. Be safe.
Okay, that's all for emergency services. We have no public hearings tonight, so we're on to the financial report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As of July 31st, net of pass-throughs, the general fund had year-to-date revenues of $8,216,719 and expenses of $6,783,413 for a positive net result of $1,433,306. As of July 31st, the general fund balance was $7,190,054. Our July year-to-date revenue overall finished 1.5% or about $124,000 over budget. Compared to the adopted 2023 budget, our real estate tax transfer collections are $157,000 behind. Cable franchise fees are down $12,000. I just got the reports today. It looks like They're down again, so we're probably looking at a $25,000 to $30,000 shortfall to the budget for the full year. Alarm ordinance fees are down about $11,000. Depending on how much we were fire alarms, we would pass those through anyway to the fire company at the end of the year. Offsetting those shortfalls, however, we have the FEMA from 2021 damage repair award. That was $92,000. Our interfund operating transfers are up $89,000. And that's due to our increased sewer recharges as we do more sewer work at the plant for the fixes necessary. PNR classes, summer programs are up $39,000 and interest income is up $72,000 versus budget. Our July year-to-date expenses are 2.5% or $181,000 over budget. The majority of those are building expenses, PNR costs, engineering charges, and sewer stormwater repairs, which are running ahead of our year-to-date budget, in particular Baldwin Circle and the purchase products for Ellis Lane. Partially offset by a 2022 surplus credit for WeGo, and then we had higher Parks and Rec revenue that offset their costs. A revised 2023 projection still estimates a surplus in our general fund for the full year. Year-to-date revenue is 14% ahead of 2022, and that's due to our real estate property tax collections increase with a millage starting this year. Our interest earnings are up much higher as the rates continue to rise. Hopefully they're probably flattening out right now. The FEMA dollars that we received that were unexpected, Parks and Rec summer classes and programs, and our interfund transfers. Our year-to-date expenses are 11% higher, however, than 2022. Predominantly because of insurance premiums, building expenses, general operating costs. Those are all the primary drivers as the supply chain and inflation costs are lingering. We're hoping that the most recent estimates for COLA and inflation by the end of the year are closer to 3% or hopefully slightly under. Still, we look in good shape for the rest of this year, and hopefully next year's better. All of our fund balances are below. Any questions on that?
That FEMA, what your comment was on the last paragraph, Dave, that was not a budgeted revenue this year. It was
Correct.
a surprise 92,000 or whatever.
Yeah, we were working on that since the storm, and it's taken that long to finally get that windfall. We didn't know if it was going to come this year
Yeah.
or not. So
No, we
didn't budget it.
typically don't budget those kind of grant applications, or do we budget those? I mean,
Depends
it
on the
wasn't
situation.
budgeted for this year, but in anticipation, yeah, and of course, you never know how they're going to evaluate what you put through. I don't know what the original request was.
The FEMA things we usually won't budget. If we have an awarded grant and we think that they're gonna reimburse us, we will put that in the
Yeah.
budget. And, a lot of times it laggers over a year, so you kick it to the next year. So you see it over and over again. But typically an award like that, we just didn't know if we were actually gonna
Yeah.
get the whole thing or
So
not.
it was a good surprise. Not that it
Yes.
wasn't expected, but with the way they processed, but that's
Yeah,
good.
we were
That's positive.
hoping, but they could have at any time. I mean, we had a lot of hiccups with it, so. They could have cut pieces of it out
Yeah.
that's unqualified.
Yeah.
So if you project 100,000 and they end up giving you 50, well,
Then you were hurting. if
then you wish you didn't put it in there.
Exactly. Okay, good. All right, just looking for that clarification. Thanks.
Any other comments, questions from the board?
No.
Guys on the phone? In the room? And I don't see anything on Zoom, so we're good with that. We do not have minutes to approve, and Derek's just directed me to the treasurer's report. Could I have a
Yeah,
motion, please?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the receipts and approve the expenditures as presented in the expenditure register and summarized in the treasurer's report.
Yes, please. I'll second that.
Thank you. Any questions, comments from the board?
No.
No, I had no questions.
Anybody on the telephone? Okay, anybody in the room? And nothing on Zoom? So I'll call the question. All in favor?
I,
All right. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
Next up is the ordinance, the Comcast ordinance.
So, Mr. Chairman, I just have to announce one thing. So Phil Fraga, who was with the Cohen Group, he is supposed to be on at 7:30. He had another meeting at 7. For any questions that may come up, he's going to be on via Zoom. So we may want to push that back to as far as possible, unless the board has no questions and we want to get
I
it
don't
over
have any
with.
questions. I mean,
I-
we're going
Then when he
through
comes
this.
on, I can
We've
comment.
gone
Mark,
over-
anything
we've
that
gone over
Got
this
your attention?
No.
Okay,
No.
yeah.
standard, standard form, for everybody listening, we're talking about the Comcast cable franchise. Comcast pays us as a township to do business here, and we have that taken care of by a big outside firm.
Yep.
We've talked about this a number of times, and I don't have any questions either. Any of you guys on the phone have a question?
This is a new 10-year term,
Yeah.
10-year term.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would like to say for the record that I said it a million times in public, and the federal law needs to change so we can capitalize on internet and streaming. I'll leave it at that.
Absolutely.
Thank you. And
Good
Mr.
point.
Chairman, I would move that we pass the ordinance 129-G-2023, commencing the new Comcast cable franchise agreement and authorize the township manager to sign said agreement.
Second that, please.
Thank you both. Questions or comments from the board? Anybody in the room?
I have one comment.
Okay,
I'd like to reflect that I concur 100% with Derek's statement that he made before this, and we should be able to capitalize on internet streaming and streaming services. And I'd like to see us maybe try to do this on our own next time without a big conglomerate that we have to pay.
We probably will, because Verizon's gonna come up again soon, and Lamb McElwain has actually a lot of experience in this realm. So we'll
Beautiful.
probably just do it.
So glad
directly
to hear
next
it.
time.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's my only
I agree
statement.
with you.
that's a
Yeah,
good
that's
point.
good. Yeah, I agree, Michelle.
Okay,
Thank you, Derek.
no other comments? I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passes. I believe that's 5-0. New business, the MMO, which is minimum municipal obligation for 2024. This has to do with insurances.
No, it's actually pension.
Pension,
So, yeah.
I'm sorry.
So as we do every year, Mr. Chairman, this is the minimum municipal obligation. This is the minimum amount the township has to contribute to the four pension funds in order to meet our obligations for those pensions. The amounts are listed there. Everything, it's pretty much all the supporting documentation is here from Jim Kennedy, from Thomas Anderson Associates. There's some slight cost differences. Dave, I don't know if you want to just touch upon that very quickly as far as the variations from last year, but
Certainly. So the in-house East Goshen Township saw a 9% increase. We went from 125,700 in 2023 to 136,700. We are still projecting, based on our pension talks in the pension committee, we're still projecting at a 6.75% return interest rate. So we're still in good shape. This is kind of a factor of the lag time and when the MMOs get recalculated by the actuarial and the market being down for this period.
Yeah.
Long term, we've done very well. We're over 11%. So I think the average return is going to be fine. The commissioned officer in UDC went from 15,400 to 22,000. That's a 43% increase. I think that's a factor of the new admin over at WeGo, which has begun. Fire is up 28%. That went from $132,074 to $168,824. That's the big one. And we talked about the pension plan and whatnot with the fire, but they also contribute to their own pension plan. And them coming in together when we do we apply for the state money. Every firefighter on the plan gets 2 credits, whereas every municipal person gets 1. So we basically give them their full allotted share, and then we get the reciprocated amounts, which nearly offsets. In the past, it's always offset all of our pension contributions necessary. Now we're just have a small shortfall. I think it's about $10,000 projected in the budget, but overall, we've made most of the contributions so far, so it'll look like a windfall when we finally get that in
So
in
state-
September.
State pension aid is really kind of keeping up and helping us out then.
It is. It's increased the last couple of years, 5,000 a year, something like that.
Yeah.
And we're seeing the same thing with state liquid fuels, which is good.
Is one of the reasons that the fire is up because they, in that period during the actual or in the calculation that there were additional career firefighters hired? Were there or not during that period? I
Not-
lost
not-
track.
Not
We have 10
to
or
me.
12 now
There's
that are career
12
fire.
and then
Yeah.
I believe it was the same 12 last
Same,
year.
okay, just curious.
I think some of it, Dave, is too, isn't there, it's kind of like a wage war going on in EMS to a certain extent as well. I don't know if that's factoring in.
It is,
now or-
and similar to the police, we just did their collective bargaining as well,
Yeah.
or they did it. So they got increases that were substantial as well. So those all play into it.
Yeah.
Good point.
Thank you, Dave.
You bet.
What I want to hear is, I use the term insurance instead of pension, and that was a Freudian slip. I wanted to hear what Mr. Shuey had to say.
Yeah.
David, have you reviewed this?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that lag is real and there's nothing we can do about it. It's usually an 18-month or plus lag by the time you get all the actuarials done. So hopefully the next year we'll start to show some of the improvement in the economy that's happened this last year, relatively speaking.
All right, well, I feel comfortable. You guys have the experience with those things.
Mr. Chairman, then I would like to make a motion that we approve the minimum municipal obligations for the following pension plans. Fire prevention plan, fire pension plan, the amount of $168,824. For the non-uniform defined benefit plan, $0. For non-uniform defined contribution in the amount of $136,700. And for the non-uniform defined contribution for the WEGO administration, $22,000.
Second that, please.
Thank you. Any other comment from the board?
Yeah.
From anyone in the room?
David has one. David.
David?
Question, Dave, I think you were, when you were talking, I was having a little trouble hearing you, but I think you were saying that, these are compared with previous MMOs, a little higher, but how about against budget? How do we budget this, and is there a negative impact on the increase in MMOs?
This will be for next year. So we get the actual numbers. So we were,
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
yeah, so no impact to budget. But I would like to point out, since exactly, and the only thing we really don't know is the state contribution. So that's why it's a little bit of a gap between what they contribute versus what we might have to pay out of pocket. But we're still in a very good situation when you look at defined benefit programs, which 90 to 95% of the state has for municipals stuff. When it was frozen here in East Goshen and moved on to a direct defined contribution trustee directed, we have had zero ever since as a MMO contribution.
That was kept up.
That is completely, they're on easy street right now.
Now,
That's right. And we also, last year, the board agreed that we would pay all of the police contributions out of general fund. So we avoided tapping that when it was at its lowest, and we avoided tapping it this year as well. So now we're seeing it had gone down to $800,000+. Now it's back up over $1 million right now. So it's a good place to have money.
do we have, off the top of your head, Dave or David, do we have any sense of what with any of these pension funds are unfunded liability at this point in our,
Not according to the actuary and CBIZ.
Yeah.
Nothing's unfunded.
excellent.
That is excellent.
Yeah. 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 That's what I thought I was gonna hear. but I
And
thought I
you
asked the
see,
question.
and you see limited impact to our MMOs as well, because we keep ratcheting down our expected interest rate. So I said we are at 6.75 now. Many of them are way over 7% easily. I mean, the last that I saw, there's still 30 to 40% of municipalities in the state that are underfunded and in
Yeah.
trouble.
Yes, I think you're correct.
Yep.
Thanks, David.
Thank you, David.
Thanks, David.
Anybody else, anybody in the room with a comment or question? Derek? Okay. I'll call the question then. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Passes.
So,
Um,
Mr. Chairman, I would like to say Phil from the Cohen Group is here. Phil, we actually voted on it, and it wasn't that we were impatient. There was just no questions for you, so we decided to go ahead and do the vote. So you're off the hook, my friend, but I
All the
appreciate you
better.
making the effort. Yeah,
Thank you,
no, I
folks.
appreciate making the effort. Thank you. It was a long
Sure.
journey, and we appreciate the effort. Thank you.
Yeah, Bill,
Okay, guys.
thanks for
Thank
your
you.
work. We appreciate the effort and
Thank
the
you all.
collaboration with the other municipalities. So thanks for
Very
Cohen's
good, sir.
work on.
You guys
They've done in
you
the
guys are great to
past.
work with. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
That's
Have a
just
good
because
night.
we made it
Thank you.
easy on you tonight, that's all.
Hey, this is my second one tonight, so I really appreciate,
All right, thanks again.
thank you, guys. Take care.
Have a good night.
Okay, second piece of new business we have is for discussion only. It's the Chester Ridley Crum Watershed Association. They want to plant trees.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. You basically just stole my storyline. So that's essentially it. I mean, I did get the information last week, so this is brand new information to me. We got it to the Conservancy last week, just in the nick of time, so they have reviewed it. But essentially CRC does a planning, do these plannings around the county. They would like to, around the area, actually in the region. They would like to do it. They thought Applebrook Park was a great candidate for it. There's a bunch of information about, exactly where the plannings would be. That has to be refined a little bit in the coming month or so. But there's an agreement there that generic right now. Mark has to review it for me before we get into that. But essentially, they take care of all the legwork. They have, I think Eric said they have some nonprofit they work with, or a company, private company. Okay. And they actually come out and they do the planning.
The cost is to us though, right?
No.
No?
there's-
cost.
there's-
$12,000 or whatever it is?
No.
Maintenance,
Well,
okay.
being
But
future-
here's my concern, and I would throw this to you, Eric, and the Conservancy Board. I love trees. I have a whole bunch of trees, but I also have a huge forest out back of my house. I think we have more trees than West Goshen, than Town, than West Town. And my concern is, I want to be sure that we're not using space, open space over in Applebrook that we might want to use in the future for our park. That's my concern. Okay.
Could you come up to the mic, please? I'm sorry.
So,
Just so that David and Cody can hear you.
so Eric, you're saying that the locations that have been cited are along stream corridors, riparian buffer, and not in any broad open space meadow area. They're right along streams to further stabilize and improve the water quality along the streams.
Correct. From what
Okay.
what I understand from the map is now the one area is on the west side of the Commerce Building, but there's the pipelines there too. So obviously that'll be taken into account. And then the other area is behind the Applebrook maintenance. And then to the left of that, by Hibbard.
I'm gonna have to get Mark to take me over and show me what's in and what's out. What concerns me is that we've spent $188,000 year to date, cutting trees down. And the last thing I want is 10 years from now, Mark to have to go out and start cutting these trees down. I want to make sure they're in the right space and all that. But otherwise, it sounds like a good idea. And if it doesn't cost us any money, I like that part of it too.
Is there a deadline when we need to make a decision on this, Eric?
So the reason they rushed to get it in front of you to look at is ideal time to order is early to mid-September for them. So if we
Plant in the fall.
miss this meeting, it'd be really pushing it because they want to plant tentatively, they want to plant, I think it's the 18th of October, whatever the Wednesday.
Our next meeting is September.
September
5th.
fifth, and I think Carly from, she's the executive director for CRC. I think she wanted to come and elaborate a little bit more on it. Also, I did tell her I wanted a slightly more detailed map, if possible. But Eric is correct. From what I understand, a lot, if not all the trees are in the riparian buffer area along. Stream.
I'm supportive of that, but I think, I know it gets a little tight, but it would be great to have her come to the meeting on the 5th. Spend 10 or 15 minutes to show us what's going on so that I think we all feel comfortable that they're going to be planted effectively. And I get it, John, with the maintenance in the future. There's, that's always important, no matter what infrastructure, whether it's green infrastructure or whether it's metal infrastructure. You got to think about that long-term plan and the maintenance. And I think that's a good question, but I'd like to hear more from her on the 5th, and you'll be here.
Yeah.
Eric, okay.
I will email her and let her know that. And if Eric's timeline's correct, then she really should be here on the 5th. If for some reason, in her opinion, it's more elongated, then we have the 19th as well, but I'll see what she can do.
Yeah, let's see if we can
Okay.
do it on the 5th, and then if we get comfortable, then we get, give the green light.
Okay.
Okay.
With regards to possible,
I don't believe so.
not, I don't believe
Looking at the
directly.
map, it doesn't look like it, David, but this is one of the reasons Derek is going to go back, I think, with Mark and do up a better map than we have in front of us.
So two minds. One is that some of the trails in those open fields are, on a hot sunny day are a little difficult to walk with them, no shade protection anywhere. But the other side of it is a lot of the shallow root trees.
Roots, yeah. Yeah, you have to have the right trees. You're right.
Yeah.
You're
So,
right.
Well, maybe we can ask that question on the 5th to get some clarification and maybe alter some of the locations if it seems proper.
The other thing regarding dead trees in the future, depending on if they're close enough to the stream out of the way of people, you may not need to remove them. Because, I mean,
Yeah, sure.
dead trees and branches still have a value to birds and stuff, so.
The other wildlife, that if it's down by Hibbard, and in that general vicinity near the Applebrook, maintenance area, there have been a number of trees that have fairly recently this year been taken out because they were dead, and Mark did remove them completely. But this would be an area where felled trees would be, if a tree fell, it would be beneficial to wildlife.
They did
If
give
it-
a number of species too, and I told Mark I wanted his opinion on the final species.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
If it fell and nobody was there.
Does it
would
make
you-
a sound?
would you-
They're also of substantial size, so they should have a good start.
Oh, so these are maybe like a 2-inch caliper or something like
Yeah,
that?
they're 5 to 7 feet. They're
5 to 7 feet. it
Oh, that's
says.
Pretty
Yeah.
big, yeah.
Well, it looks good. I just want to make sure that we have the right place for them. That's all.
Yeah, well, it's a
Thanks for
great
coming
program.
over.
It's not costing us anything initially,
That's my idea of
Which
a
is-
great program.
yes, but you got to think of the future.
Yeah.
So, which you did.
Um,
Thanks, Eric.
Thank you.
I'm going
we're-
to save this then.
We're up to standing issues. Garrett?
Yep, so we have for the Milltown Dam, I did send letters out to the residents of that area. They should be either have it or getting it any day now, or just letting them know how the bid process went and that we'll be discussing it on September 5th, and told them to follow it from there because it could be on multiple agendas. I did put at the request of the board up on the website as far as the bid results and Dave's breakdown that he had. So it's out there publicly as far as the costs and the astronomical costs of it. So yeah, we will have that discussion on September 5th, and I will have some material for that night.
And with that
Okay.
letter going out, I would expect we'll have some of our neighbors attending the meeting with questions.
Yeah, I would
Oh, yeah.
suspect so. Yeah,
Okay, Milltown Pocket Park, you've
yeah, it's
pretty much
fall.
covered that.
Yeah, it's a fall project. Bow Tree from I don't think I have an update from the last, well, I have kind of the Bow Tree update in regard of it tying into MS4 a little bit, because I started exploring with Pinoni if we were to go different ways on the Milltown, because the Milltown Dam project, we're actually getting MS4 credit for. Very
Yes,
important part of
that's
the.
very important as well.
So I started talking to Pinoni about that, and essentially, what would happen if we did this or this as far as the MS4 credit. So we're kind of looking into other avenues of making up MS4 credit should the board go a certain way on that. And those ponds might be a good resource in that regard because of the capacity that will be added from the dredging. Both there, Marydale, and possibly future ponds as we continue to go down that route of fixing the ponds. So I think we're okay from an MS4 perspective, but I think that's the biggest update I have, which kind of crosses over into the Milltown.
Okay. Questions about the poultry? No?
No.
The other part I'd like added to this would be the software update. How are we doing with that?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know if I have it on me. Let me see. No, I didn't go out in the. Hold on.
Which is that?
Anyway, basically the update is this. So prior to the resignation of our senior staff accountant, she was our leading project manager on this from start to finish, did the RFP. There's a lot of foot dragging hesitancy as far as moving forward with the utility portion. We got payroll on in time. We got AP done. So it's been all utility since after August of last year. With her leaving, I've been in weekly contact touch points with Edmonds. I'm taking over as project manager. As of September 11th, they will do the final data pull, and by the end of the September, we will be on Edmonds
I just have,
for utilities.
Cody, 1 second. I just have the little blurb, Dave, you actually wrote in the project
Okay.
issue. So I'll just read it verbatim. So
Okay.
payroll and AP are fully integrated and have been for a year. Utility has been the holdup, but with the resignation of senior staff accountant, who was the project manager for the software integration, the finance director has taken over the leadership of this project and is now on schedule for utility admins on board in September after August close. Weekly touch point meetings occur and training for the new utility staff accountant is in place. Codes is on pace to be onboarded by December 2024. More frequent meetings are scheduled between admins and code department.
Should be 2023. They should be on by the.
I
end
mean,
of the
sorry,
year.
2023. I was, I'm going 2024 budget in my head already. Sorry.
I'm with you.
East Goshen Township is in the process of defining forms and templates for letters, permits, inspections, and need to be provided to Edmonds.
And the reason for waiting
Good.
until September for the implementation at this point is because we sent out bills as soon as August 31st hits, we'll do the close, and then we'll do update our files so that everything in AMS will have the correct assessed penalty and interest. Then we can do a hard cut, and then we can match up with Edmonds once they do the poll.
And Cody has a
Good.
question.
Cody?
Hey, sorry, not really a question. I should have mentioned earlier, but I didn't unmute quick enough in regards to Milltown Dam. I hope down September 5th, the board will vote 5-0 for us to get started immediately on the work that needs to get done. Then we can reevaluate our wish lists and the residents' wish list. So it's just me with my annoying plea. Instead of having to call you all individually in Jamaica, I could just make it now. So thank you.
We appreciate
Loud
hearing
and
from
clear.
you, Cody. Any other comments then?
I have a quick quick comment on, on any other matter?
Okay, any
Easy-
other matter?
Easy for me to say, right? I have to just publicly commend Jess and Jason for the fantastic job they did with the Young Filmmakers Showcase. This is the third year I've attended, and the films were fascinating to watch. The kids really do a great job with making their point be known. We had a few snafus with the bad weather that whipped through last Monday night. There was no sound at one point, and there was there were a few other interruptions with the tornado warnings that were coming through Exton area. But the kids really were very excited to see their movies on the screen, and of course, Sun Center Studios with Guillaume, they were really just fantastic. And we also had another partner, a local partner, Advanced. Shoot, I forget what it is, but Jess will probably know. But yeah, so they were really terrific and really great storytellers. So it was a really good job.
Great program.
Fun had by all. There were over 1,500, almost 2,000 applicants.
Wow.
And 500 of them were from Pennsylvania and the surrounding area. And I think all of our winners were from Pennsylvania this year. So the others were sent to the international category, which is,
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That many.
I know, God bless them for, that's a lot of homework.
It sure is.
All right, well, thank you, Michelle.
Can I give an update on the Bow Tree
Okay.
path?
Yeah.
The possible future bridge. So we reached out to Nate Klein at Benoni. He is putting together some expense, the whole 9 yards for us, as if it's a 100% third party, buying all of the things, all the engineering costs, going through the wetlands, getting the permits, all of that. We got to meet with him, Derek, Mark, and myself tomorrow morning. So we should have an update. Hopefully I can give it to the Futures Committee on Thursday, and then we'll bring it to the board next.
On the
Okay.
fifth. On the fifth.
Yep.
Yeah, good. Okay, good. I'm real interested in that. I hope that get a positive report that the board can support on that. I think that's more connectivity that's available.
David, Cody, any other matters for you guys? Thank you, Dave. Okay, public comment. Do we have anybody who wants to make a public comment? This is any other or public comment. 12 or 13, whatever category you prefer.
That's okay. This is your public, this is public time. So if you have an issue, go ahead and bring it on up.
Yeah,
That's why you're here.
Trying to follow the agenda. Looked like you were a little ahead, maybe. So I know that Cody's probably dying to call adjournment, so I'll try to be quick. Bill Geyer, 1560 Tanglewood Drive. So I guess the first thing is I also watched the recording of, I guess it was the last session, it might have been the one before, where the police officer presented information on the one, gave some more insight to the board. I did not feel like he was being offensive at all. In fact, the thing that I noticed was, and he may have been incorrect in it, but I thought I heard that the RFI went out to, or RFQ went out to 8 vendors and only 1 responded. I have a lot of professional experience with RFPs. And when you send out that number of requests and you only get 1 back, that's kind of a red flag. Especially I think you mentioned that some of them had mentioned, it was kind of confusing. They weren't quite sure. So I took that as a point to say, hey, we only got 1 response. To me, that would have been a red flag. So I didn't feel it was disrespectful at all. Anyway,
Well,
just offer you that.
referee, I appreciate your comments, but you're not on the inside of a lot of these discussions, Mr. Geyer. So I would not agree with you, but I appreciate your comment.
Okay. Yeah. I'm just saying also, it's just unusual. You would only have 1 one person, one company respond when you sent out 8.
We don't know why that was.
We don't know why that was, but Matrix is a national company that has done international that's done, I want to say more than scores of these, hundreds of these kind of studies. So they are fully qualified. And with professional services, there is no bidding requirement, as Mark Thompson, our solicitor, knows. So the process was handled completely transparently, effectively with our partner. And I will say it again. I thought that the approach unannounced to come and make those kind of assessments to us was inappropriate. And I thought it was disrespectful for the board, disrespectful to the board. So again, I appreciate your comment, Mr. Geyer, but you're on the periphery of a lot of stuff that's going on with our WeGo organization. So I'm going to leave it at that.
I wonder if we should share more than that.
Well, that's not why you
So,
came here, though.
but,
So
yeah,
go
that's-
ahead, sir.
Yeah, what
Let's
was your
move on.
point?
So the main topic I want to talk about is the noise ordinance. We know you had public hearing, you had a public hearing in November, and then there was a session, follow-up session in March. So I'm going to try and be as quick as possible here. I thought just a few quick recordings would be useful.
That's I know as well.
Let's-
Can I have a waiver for 30 days of a contract? As it's written in this document? Yes. Thank you, that's why. Thank you, Jim. Well, I mean, I would say that there's also some interpretation by the township when we also issue the permit, so. Right. If somebody said they wanted to have Woodstock for 30 days, I would deny that. Right, and that's a good point.
Okay. The next one.
The only point I wanted to make to everyone is that this ordinance hasn't been tested yet. This is a relatively new ordinance, and as Bill says, it's summertime when people actually push it and do these backyard concerts or parties or whatever they are. I would like to see us wait and see by the end of the summer how this ordinance has.
That fella sounds
Yeah.
very intelligent.
Doesn't he? Sounds good. Yeah, he does. 2 more brief ones.
I mean, what's the process of getting a permit? Can I just call up and say, I need a permit? I'm gonna make some noise.
Yep.
And then you just say, okay, you got a permit.
It's not that easy, Derek.
It'll go to our zoning officer, director of code enforcement. He'll get the details of the event. You know, if there's a tent involved, if there's going to be a fire pit, what kind of noise, is it acoustic, is it amplified? So he'll get all that information. Ultimately, it's up to me to sign off on it.
And then the last one.
I like the idea of tightening it up a little bit as well. I've had some concern about this J category as well. Because the way I read it is the way the Geyers have interpreted it. And that's to say that if I choose to have a party, I can go ahead and make as much noise as I want to because I've got a waiver. So we're not restricting the decibel level for the person who's requested the waiver. We still need to have some restriction, I think, there.
Just a couple more.
Am I making myself?
I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
I will say that in the waiver section, it does permit the township to include reasonable conditions on the it may contain conditions and restrictions in order to ensure that the intent of the chapter is implemented. So when the permit is issued, the township can certainly state if the board were to direct, not to exceed certain decibel levels. So that's.
There you go. So those were key points. Thank you for listening to those. So I'm going to give you kind of an update on how, the concert season has progressed the last 2 months. So on Memorial Day, Monday, I was cleaning, staining my deck, finishing it up. Was outside pretty much all day. My neighbor had an amplified band concert. It didn't escalate. Obviously, I was prepping our deck for our entertainment season. However, I did follow up with Derek and Dwayne the next day. That was Tuesday, I think it was, to confirm had I missed a permit. And I think, Derek, you confirmed there was no permit issued. So then on Saturday, the June 17th, got a notice of basically permits for concerts or potential concerts on the next 4 consecutive, that's straight weekends. So so that was Saturday, June 17th, 7 days in advance. Notice of concerts or potential concerts on the next 4 weekends. So that was June 17th. Then on Friday, July 21st at 5 p.m., mailman delivered my mail. We had a notice in the mail of a rescheduled waiver for that Sunday, the 23rd, so less than 48 hours away. And I'll say then just this past week on Saturday evening, August 5th, I got another notice in the mail for 2 more concerts, one this Sunday and another one next Sunday. So let me summarize. So that's 7 of 10 consecutive Sundays that we've gotten a notice of a permit, concert, or potential concert. Now I know on the, on the one notice that I got, the less than 48 hours notice, Derek, I think you confirmed that it was a misstep on the staff's part.
I would characterize it as a perfect storm of events, but yeah, it was essentially, we got the permit request in right at the last minute. It was like the day before it was due. And that week coming up, it was essentially Dwayne was shorthanded because our main inspector was out all week, who was very sick that week. So he had to cover for that. So he couldn't review the information. So he didn't get it out till the following Monday or Tuesday, which is why you got it that Friday. So yeah, so the 14 days was just got in under the wire that we put into place, and that's kind of how it transpired. So I don't know if it was a misstep. It was something we were aware of, but it was just something that, because of the logistics of what was happening, didn't get out until late. And I agree it was late, but the only cure for that is if the board wants to put it in that, instead of 14 days, it's 21 days. I mean, it's an imperfect process and an imperfect system. So you can tweak as you go along if you wish, but that's the only thing I can think of to try to correct it a little bit.
What else do you have? Bill?
So, so too bad for the residents, huh?
Bill, can I ask a question?
No, wait a minute. Are you finished?
So no, I'm not finished. So
Okay, go ahead.
just a couple more points. Sorry, Michelle. So on the July 23rd date, and we'll tell you, it was quite loud. We had guests scheduled to come over. I took a reading at my property boundary at the concert. I'll call it the concert introduction, the kickoff song. And it was well above the ordinance limit. I was on my property. It averaged 70 decibels. Sorry, it averaged 60, it maxed at 70, it peaked at 70, over 72. And I'll remind the board that, 60 decibels is about 10 times more intense than 50. 70 is about 10 times more intense than 60 and 100 times more intense than 50. So, I really urge, I would like to see some changes, to the point about, let's make the language in the ordinance more precise to put limits. So for example, the actual permit requests clearly stated that the sounds were going to be in the range 55 to 75 decibels. This band stage is only, I'm going to say 25 to 30 feet from the property line and maybe 80, 90 feet to our kitchen, to our deck, to my home office. And let's keep in mind, 90 feet, think about a football field, that's 30 yards. So it's 30 yards. So it's pretty close. So I think, I'd like to see some changes. Maybe something like 4-year, but one per calendar quarter. With the option for rain dates, but the rain dates, maybe, a maximum of 1 rain date per event. And if it's elected to be requested, then it would use up the allotment for the next quarter.
We were, sorry, go ahead.
Good. Well,
No, I was just going to say, I mean, the board could codify whatever they wish to codify, but I could tell you from an administrative standpoint, Dwayne and I had kind of decided to go forward as if it's something canceled and then the rain date is also canceled, then that would just count as one permit, because otherwise you would kind of go on in perpetuity. That's how way we were going to handle administratively. I'm not saying that satisfies your concerns, but that was one change administratively we were going to make. Again, that's absent of whatever the board codifies further, but.
sorry, I didn't follow that, Derek. Sorry.
So if somebody puts in for 2 dates, one is the regular date, one is the rain date. If neither happen because of rain, then that counts as one permit. That counts as one, then they only have 3 left.
Doesn't occur, they negate it because they.
Okay.
Correct.
So I'm telling you what's going to happen. So let's say we're going to have rain. Well, let's say rain, storm comes up this Sunday.
Mhm.
There were no rain dates requested. He's just going to now Monday, submit another request for another rain date. And all it has to be is within the next, basically a month from this Sunday.
Well, if it's a new request, yeah. Okay. No, I'm done.
Bill, so I just want to go back to beginning of the summer. You got the notice of the 2 concert dates with 2 rain dates on them. So there were 4 dates.
4 dates and they were 4. So it was basically 4 consecutive weekends.
And then did any of them happen?
None of those happened.
So that should have been.
Well, I was home. We
Right.
were home. I don't think any of them happened. I didn't see any, didn't hear anything.
Right. Okay, so that's one incident. That's one permit. Then on the 21st, you got notice of a rescheduled date from one of those 4 dates. And that happened on the 23rd. So that's another one. And another permit has gone in for 2 more concerts. Do they have rain dates attached to them?
There are no rain dates yet.
So there, that was 2. So does this one on August the 5th that you got, does that count as 2 separate permit requests for 2 separate dates, or does it count as 1?
Count 2.
It's got to be 2.
It does state in it that it's 2.
So now he's got the opportunity to do the last 2 concerts. He can't put in for a rain date because he's used up all of his, is that correct? He's put in all of his requests at that point?
Well, no, that's how we want to handle it going forward. What
Yeah.
I'm saying, we didn't clarify, we did not codify
Okay,
how the rain date.
That's how the 23rd situation came up, because it wasn't in the original request. It just came at.
Well, that was a
the last minute.
combination of that and the fact that 14 days, sometimes if
Isn't
we
enough.
have issues with staff, that time could be an issue.
right.
It's not.
I'll just point out, I think I raised that a couple times last year, at least, well, maybe 6 times, more than a couple.
So we're looking to, what you're looking at is, could we possibly change, if we're gonna make any changes, maybe one of the changes would be to make it a 21-day lead time, so that could allow for the perfect storm to happen and still get notice out to the residents in time. And then what you're suggesting perhaps is allowing 4 per year, 1 per quarter calendar quarter.
Calendar quarter, yeah.
And if a rain date is requested, it uses up the next quarter's request. That's an interesting way of approaching it, and it's something that we'll have to take into consideration.
And then the last point is, would think that the conditions of the permit should also clearly state I see no reason why you wouldn't put in the sound limits, right? Because the ordinance, the normal ordinance is 60 decibels.
Well,
So-
here's the one problem that we have with that. In order to put decibels in, we'd have to have somebody on staff with the ability to actually be able to come out and do readings. And we don't have anybody that currently has that certification. It's quite expensive to get somebody in for that, even in specific incidents. We did that with Sunoco a couple of times. It was expensive. It's expensive to get the certifications. And then the police also don't have decibel readers in their vehicles, even though a phone app could potentially be at least the initial,
Yes.
this is a little too loud kind of thing.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think that maybe we need to talk to our new solicitor and see if there's some other verbiage that can be put in there so that police can have a little bit more leeway in enforcing things, maybe tighten up the language that constitutes what a noise nuisance is. I don't know if we can tighten that language up, but it's something that we can still think about.
Yeah, and I understand the questions about calibration. I will tell you these, it's one thing if the reading out of the phone app is 61 decibels, you could say that probably the margin of error is plus or minus 1 decibel. The app that I use that I was told was pretty good by the previous noise control officer. I mean, it does say it's calibrated for the particular device profile. So it it knows my model of iPhone, assuming there's no issues with the microphone on my phone. It's pretty accurate. It's going to be within a decibel or two, plus or minus. But when I do a reading that's, maximum of 10 decibels over the ordinance, that's well above the margin of error. So, I mean, that's a potential goods tool for the police to use to help, provide a more objective measurement, because everybody's view is going to be different, right? Someone who's hard of hearing might hear something that's 75 decibels and they can't hear it. I have pretty good hearing. I have poor eyesight, but I have pretty good hearing. So it's going to sound a lot different to me than someone who has damaged hearing. Right. So that's the other point.
I have a question.
Go ahead, David.
Mr. Dyer, knowing that there was a permit issued, why would you involve the police force for the last event?
So Dave, I know you have a personal bias on this topic. So I think you should probably, no, I think you're asking the question. Let's full disclosure. Let's disclose to the public that both you and Mike Lynch have a personal interest in this. You both have acknowledged attending some of these concerts. You both. And
That's me and you in my neighborhood.
okay, well, I would argue, David, that you should recuse yourself.
That's me enjoying my neighborhood, which I've done for 30 years. Nobody else is complaining about a noise. You are taking a personal vendetta involving our police, taking them off where they could be responding to an emergency or some other police force activity. And you're taking this personal vendetta and involving the board, involving the police, and frankly, the permits were issued. You had no reason to call the police other than for punitive.
So I made this comment several times. I'll make it again. And actually the number has increased now. So there are other other residents who are not happy with this. However, they don't want to make waves. And it's more than one besides us. As far as yes, I called the police. We have guests to entertain. I have a right to entertain. I have a right to, we have a right to use our property like we normally would. We have a right to use our deck that's 90 feet, 80 or 90 feet within our property line to be able to have guests over to use our deck in a reasonable manner and not have, an amplified band concert, next door on a regular basis. So, the permit is not a permit to exceed the noise ordinance.
Regulations that you call the police.
So in your opinion, Dave, it sounds like you're saying that a permit grants the requester the ability to exceed the noise ordinance, the normal noise ordinance limits. In other words, to create a nuisance. Well, the code says 60 decibels is the normal limit at the property boundary. And he was well above that. Okay, you can obscure the issue, Dave, all you want.
We dealt with that when we dealt with, the disruption.
So I'll also add my commentary.
Was to get a calibrated equipment in various locations and vectored, and we've dealt with this with another situation in the township. It has nothing to do with handheld decibel apps.
Do you have anything else, Bill, that you wanted to bring up?
No, I think I can send an email with some suggestions, kind of what I just, I can put it in an actual email.
I think that's a good idea.
Okay.
But, my point is we're only really 2 months into the season, and this is already what it's been for us, so.
And we did.
I think
How many
7 out of 10
how many
straight.
Concerts have there actually been, Bill?
Well, if you count the unpermitted one, there's been 2, with 2 more coming up.
Okay.
But that's also not the point, right?
What did the police say?
So what was interesting is, when the police officers arrived, and I will tell you, I think they were very professional, really happy with that. Two cars responded. So what was interesting is I first explained to the one officer, so just want to give you some background, and I could see the body language in his face. I mean, it was just like, wow, you got to be kidding me. This isn't like a special graduation party or a special anniversary party. My neighbor built a permanent band stage and holds professional concerts on a regular basis. And I could just see it in his body language. You got to be kidding me. So.
The bandstand is there. I mean, that's not speculative. It's the stage is there, but the fact is that.
So, I mean, I think, I do think there needs to be some training. I will say that I think there's some perception from the police that just having a permit is basically, it's a permit to exceed the noise levels. That's my impression. Now I will say that I think things quieted down a little bit, and it seemed to dissipate a little bit faster. But I will say that even after the police left, I mean, it was loud enough. We couldn't use our deck to entertain our guests. I mean, we normally play, just some light music to just background music, and it was just too loud. We would have had to blast it to overcome the sound from our neighbor. So it was really kind of uncomfortable. Is it causing, hearing damage? I know you think it's funny, Mike. I know that's great. It's really, but it was enough to really, impact our normal use of our deck, just like any resident would expect to use their deck that's 80 feet within their property boundary in a residential neighborhood, right? That's the key. So.
All right, well, let's wrap this up. Bill, you're going to send us an email suggesting what you'd like done to the ordinance. I'm going to ask Michelle, as the police commissioner, to talk to the chief at your next meeting and see what training or direction could be given to the officers if this happens again.
No
And
problem.
we'll take up those issues. Hopefully, the 5 of us will be here present to do that.
Okay, thank you, John. Thank you, Michelle.
In all
Thank you,
fairness,
Bill.
we did ask him to come back and let us know how things went. So I appreciate the update. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, does anybody else have any other matter or public comment? I
Mr.
don't hear
Chairman?
it. Cody,
I'm going to make my favorite motion here because I'm 20 minutes late for dinner, but I'm happy to wait if there's any other public comment. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
second, all in
Second.
favor? Aye.
Aye,
Thank
thanks,
you,
guys.
Judy.
Go enjoy dinner.